This video will be a walkthrough of the Cambridge International A-Level Computer Science Paper 4 Practical using the most recent series paper. So if you watched the last video, we did version 1 of the paper. This will be a different version, so different questions. This is version 2. Just a reminder of what I'll be doing. I won't be writing what I call, or what is Pythonic code. Instead, what we'll be doing is we'll be trying to write Cambridge International style code. What this means is like declaring arrays. So instead of lists, using arrays, annotating types as much as possible, and not using any kind of remotely advanced Python techniques. So again, I'm using VS Code as my editor. And I've got the files ready. So let's have a look at beginning question 1. So a computer program is needed to store jobs in order of priority. So it's going to be a queue type question. Each job has a job number, for example, 1, 2, 3, and a priority from 1 to 10, with 1 being the highest priority and 10 the lowest. The program stores the jobs in a global 2D array. So we've got 100 rows, 2 columns, and that's the number of the first job, and that's the priority of the first job. What do we have to do for question 1? Write program code to declare the global 2D array jobs and the global variable number jobs. So let's make a start. I'm not quite sure what this question is going to ask us, but let's make a start. So what we're trying to do is the Python equivalent of declaring an array called jobs, and it's an array of integers. So in Python, what I do is like a list comprehension. It's the most straightforward way to make an array. What we need to do is have 2 integers. Let's initialize them to null. None for in range 2. And we want to do that over 100 columns for in range 100. I want to declare this global variable number of jobs, and it needs to be initialized to let's make it 0. I guess the initial value should be 0. Say like declare number of jobs is an integer and it's global. Should be enough evidence for the first question. Let's put that in the answer document. Okay. And then for 1b, it's asking us to write a procedure, and the procedure is called initialize. And it well, we need to have number of jobs being global, and whilst it might be possible to modify this array or this list in Python, I think the exam board wants us to specifically say things are global, even though you don't need to with mutable things in Python. So we need to go through each array element and put 0 in number of jobs. Number of jobs is 0. Again, we can't declare a variable in Python without assigning it a value. So here we've kind of already done that, so it makes us a bit redundant, but you can assume if we want to reset the queue or whatever data structure it's going to ask us to do, then the initialize procedure might be called again. So that's why we need to repeat this code here anyway. And then we need to loop through each index in the array. So for y in range 100 for every row, for x in range 2 for every column, let's make sure that the jobs at y at x is -1. I suppose we could just do the same code here, but let's consider what we could do. We could use another list comprehension here, maybe. But let's do it using loops because that kind of matches what is taught in your syllabus, whereas it doesn't talk about things like list comprehensions. All right, let's put that in as the evidence. And for part 1C, we need to write a procedure called add job. And it takes a job number, which is going to be an integer, and priority, which is also going to be an integer. And we can sort of see here that we need to write the job to the array. So because each job stores a job number and a priority, then I'm just going to say jobs at number of jobs, because this will point to the most recent job. So when jobs is 0, it will point to the first index in the array. At 0, which is the job number, that's the right way around, right? Yeah, the job number should be the job number coming in as a parameter. Jobs at number of jobs at index 1, which is the priority, should be the priority. We need to output added if it was successful and not added. So we need to add in some validation here. So you need to consider what could cause this not to be successful. Well, if there's no more space left in the jobs array, then we won't be able to add anything to it. So first of all, we need to check that, okay, number of jobs has to be less than 100, because the maximum it could be is 99, given that the first index is 0. And then we can print added, and then just use the else clause to say, okay, if the array was full, then we print not added. So that's the 5 marks for add jobs. So maybe it's not going to be a queue. Seems like it's just a sort of an array problem at the moment. And then part 1D, we need to have a main program. And the main program needs to call the procedure initialize. So let's call the procedure. Just have some notes. So in your paper 3 exam, when you call a procedure, you need to use the call keyword. But in Python, you don't need to use something like that. Use the add job procedure to store each of the following jobs. So we need to store job 12, which has a priority of 10, and job 526, then job 33, then job 12, then job 78. The priorities are 10, 9, 8, 9, and 1. That should be it. So each time we do need to increment the number of jobs. Every time we add a job from our add job function, then add job procedure, I should say, then we need to make sure that we increment the number of jobs. But I suppose this only happens if the add was successful. Let's just modify our answer for that one. So let's view, where's the terminal? Okay, let's just test what we've done so far. Let's make sure we save this time. Control S for save. And we're getting an error because we're trying to use a variable that doesn't exist yet. That's because I've written numbers of jobs. Let's try that again. Let's just correct the mistake in our answer. And this time, I don't think I saved. And I've made the same mistake multiple times. Okay, let's replace the whole answer. So yeah, maybe what is this? This is teaching us a lesson. Even if you're not asked to test, you should probably test. Don't just paste your code in. So come up with a test after each question just to check that your code is correct. Is it asking us for a screenshot yet? Not yet. Okay. So let's do the next task. So task E is, hold on. Let's put in our evidence for task D first of all. And for task E, when a new job has been added, the array is sorted into numerical order of priority using an insertion sort. Oh, this will be interesting. So 5 marks for being able to write an insertion sort from scratch. Quite a challenging question. So let's have a little recap of how the insertion sort works. So let's say I've got a list of numbers. Such as this. And what we need to do is have the insert value or something. So the insert value in this case will be the first number, and then we will loop from the second index to the end of the array, trying to find where this value fits in. And the algorithm will work like this. So we will compare 3 and 2, and because 3 is bigger than 2, we will copy 2 over this value. Then we'll compare 3 and 5. And because 3 is not bigger than 5, or am I going the right way here? Yeah, this will work. Because 3 is not bigger than 5, what this means is we found the insert point, so the insert point for 3 is here. We then find the next insert value. We've just inserted 2. We've just inserted 3, so we don't need to insert 3 again. This time, I think I've done this wrong slightly. Let me just try that again. 3, 2. Okay, let's start with the second index instead, sorry. So the insert value should have been 2 to start off with. So what we do is we compare it leftwards instead. So is 2 less than 3? Yes, it is. So let's copy 3 over 2. Now that we've reached the end of the array, the start of the array, there's nothing left to compare. So we found our insert position for 2. The next insert value will be 3, and we'll compare it to the part of the list that's already sorted. Is 5 smaller than 3? No, so nothing happens at that point because 5 is already in the correct spot. Then we move up to the next insert value, which is 9. We compare 9 with 5. Again, nothing happens because 9 is already in the correct order. And then finally, the last insert value, which is 1. And then what happens is we compare 1 with 9 because it's smaller. 9 gets copied up. Then we compare 1 with 5, and because it's smaller, 5 gets copied up. We compare 1 with 3, and because it's smaller, gets copied up. And 1 with 2, smaller, gets copied up. And finally, we found the insert value because there's nothing left to compare. And this is the insertion sort algorithm. Let's try and code this now. So we're going to assume that the array is global. We already know that. And we are trying to sort it into ascending order in order of priority. So what we want to do is we want to loop from the second value, so for index in range from the second value to the number of jobs, and the insert value will be the job at that index, but specifically its priority, so the second value. we then need to make a copy of the pointer. So the pointer will be index to start off with, and we need to say whenever the pointer is bigger than 0, because we can't compare with something left, and the one before, so jobs at pointer -1's priority is bigger than the insert value, then this is our loop. What we need to do is then shuffle the previous one up. This is what we did in the kind of dry run. We want to say that jobs at pointer should be equal to jobs at pointer -1. That copies the previous one over the current one. And then what we need to do is keep going down. And then as soon as this loop exits, either we'll have got to the start of the list because pointer will be 0, or we'll have found the correct position to insert the item in. Once the loop has exited, we can just say jobs at pointer should be okay. Let me just change the way we're going to do this, because I'm not sure about like copying a pair directly, like copying an array over an array. It doesn't really meet with Cambridge's kind of the way that they write their code. So let's just change it slightly. Let's split up the two things. So we have an insert priority and an insert job number. The insert priority is still what we're comparing, but I want to just break this down into 2 steps. I want to copy the job number and the priority separately. I think that would match their requirements a little bit more. And then once we've exited the loop, we can then say wherever we left off is the insert job number and the insert priority. So I by no means can guarantee that this will work first time. This might require some debugging. I might not have remembered the algorithm correctly. So let's have a test and let's see. So we want to let's see what it tells us to do. Okay, let's just do our own test. Let's just print out the array. Oh, I guess we don't need to loop up to 100 every time. We only need to acknowledge the number of jobs, don't we? That will make it a bit more efficient. So let's print the list. Let's just use some Python techniques for testing purposes. Let's slice the array up to the number of jobs. Let's then sort the array and let's print the jobs and let's see if the code we've written works. So it looks like it's been successful because we can see now that the priority number, which is the second index, the list has been ordered. The array has been ordered. All right, like I said, it's a good idea to check rather than just copy the code in without having tested it. Let's see if we can finish the rest of the question off. So we want to do a procedure called print array. Which outputs each job number and a priority on a line. Okay, so let's just loop from index, starting at 0, going up to the number of jobs. We don't need global, but I think Cambridge might give a mark for something weird like that. We're not modifying number of jobs, but let's just put a global there to show that number of jobs is a global variable. And let's print out the jobs at the current index at 1 or 0 and then we need to say the word priority, and then jobs at index at 1, right? And then that will print the job number, the string priority, and then the actual priority. That should be print array, and the program needs to sort the array and then output the contents of the array. Call procedures insertion sort and print array. All right, let's now test it with the test that they suggest. And is it in order? So starting with the lowest priority, ascending order, numerical order of priority. That's right. So we've got 1, 8, 9, 9, 10, and that should be it. So let's put in the evidence. So that was G1, and that was F. Whoops. So again, just make sure you've got a white background for your evidence. The example don't want dark backgrounds. And then we need to take, apart from the console, obviously the console screenshot needs to, although we probably could have a go at changing the color scheme of VS Code, couldn't we? So like preferences, settings. How do I change VS Code into light mode? File, edit. Okay, that's quite a nifty thing. So it's just looking at my operating system and is detecting whether or not I like dark mode or light mode. That'll work. And this is better just when you print your answers. It's much better to have a white background. So that's the evidence for 1G2. Let's just talk a little bit now about how we could improve the answer. So let's do some comments to highlight the different types being used. So if we were writing in a strictly typed language, we need to declare the types. It's good to just get into the habit of doing this because that is what they require in some questions. Some questions, especially the OOP questions, you will get some marks for doing this.